Hey, Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Hashem. Yahweh Shai, Bashem, Rakakwadash. Much mercy to you sincere brothers out there, the true house of David, all you brothers that's understanding this gospel, the new covenant, and actually that have been redeemed to understand who you are, that can actually understand God, man. Shalom to all you brothers. May the Lord continue to have mercy on you brothers. Continue to grow in the faith, understanding God, and that is the most important thing. What we tend to find out too is that a lot of guys are not following the order of the scriptures. And you can see that plainly. And so, real quick, let me grab something. So Yahweh Shai is the bread. He said, "I am the way, the truth, and the light." And so, guys totally put the Lord on a back burner and teaching the things of the world. That's why 1 John 4 said, if men are speaking of the world and they're holding the Bible, then they're of the world. You know, so they speak of the world. So you have to put this in perspective right here in Corinthians real quick. Because by God's doctrine, you can understand that really they're not even of God, man. They're of this world. They're of the flesh. And, just because these guys are under they're dead. They're dead in the world. And guys are in their sins. And they have other men in their sins. So I seen this one video where this guy, he said, hey, man, I can't understand why God would make a hell and why he would do this and why he would do this. Exactly. It ain't for you really to understand why the Lord doing that as long as you're in carnal camps. If you're in a camp or if you're in any place where guys are leaning to the flesh, you will not understand these spiritual principles. So that's the thing in this last day. If you're not of God, you're not going to understand spiritual principles. There's nothing spiritual about the old law of Moses. There's nothing spiritual about the world and being in wide gates and broad paths. There's nothing spiritual about men teaching James going off or Paul, book of Hebrews ain't right. It's nothing spiritual about man holding you to carnal commandments of the old covenant. Was the Lord abolished in the first century. And so because men don't have an understanding, they think that the old covenant is as important as the Lord is, and that's just not true. That's why the scriptures tell you in Hebrews that the new covenant is not under order of a carnal commandment. So that means this new covenant has nothing to do with nothing carnal. This is something that we're dealing with, things that are unseen. So if you don't have like the elements of faith, which is belief, understanding, mercy, love, and judgment and discernment, if you don't have these qualities in you, then you cannot understand the Lord or hell or the Gentiles, or really even understanding this truth, because guys are under the assumption that teaching destruction, that's the gospel. That's the most important thing, and that's far from the truth. And that's why the Lord said many, and in Matthew 24 the Lord said many false prophets, and Peter said many shall follow their pernicious ways. So this is what we're following, but certain of us are returning back to understanding who we are in that first century. So it's real critical you understand who you are, because you wouldn't be able to understand this if you didn't have this already, and if you wasn't with the Lord. The Lord said you were with me. 1 Corinthians 11:3, it says, but I will have you know that the head of every man is the anointed, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of the anointed is God. So the head of every man is the anointed, and is Yahweh Shai. So when you go back to the apostles' ministry, their whole ministry was about teaching the Lord. and making men understand the Lord. That's why the Lord said, I am the bread and I am the life. So guys that are not of the Lord, they're not going to be able to understand this. You see, they're not going to be able to teach it, and they're not going to be able to understand it in this last days. So let's go into this real quick. Let's see. Yeah, so it's heavy in these last times. John 6:35, it says, Yahushua saith unto them, I am the bread of life, and he that cometh to me shall hunger. Let me read that again. Yahushua said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. So you're going to, more than anything, spiritually, you're going to understand. You see, and you shall never thirst. You shall always be full with understanding and wisdom. So us coming back to who we are, understanding that if you can't teach something if you can't have it. The scripture tell you in Sirach, you can't profess knowledge you don't have. So if guys don't have the Lord in them, their whole doctrine is of the world. Matter of fact, the scripture tell you in 1 John 4, they are of the world. So they speak of the world, and the world hears them. You see what I'm saying? So the world hears these guys because they don't have the Lord in them. Because if guys really had the Lord in them, they understand that the head of every man is Yahushua. So you need to be focused on the Lord, not the carnal shit in the world. But you cannot teach this spiritual covenant to carnal men, so they're not going to comprehend it. You have to come out of the world. There are way more people in the world that are desolate from truth and knowledge and understanding than there are certain ones that are actually of God. That's what it's saying in Galatians. They are way more desolate without a husband. And so like I read yesterday, when you go into that word no, it means sexual intercourse between a man and a woman. So it's giving you a metaphor in a parable of a man and a woman being intimate together. That is how you know the Lord and you know God in this time. And so for everybody it does not know God in that intimate way. John 6:35, and the anointed said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. So what we're saying is a lot of guys, through their doctrine, they don't believe in the Lord like that. And if you're in all these fucking synagogues and camps, they don't believe in the Lord and his covenant right now. And the guys that's teaching, they're waiting on new bodies. That means they don't believe in the Lord. So they don't have any faith. John 6:36, but I said unto you that ye also have seen me and believe not. All that the fathers give me shall come to me, and him that cometh to me I will no wise cast out. So a lot of guys aren't coming to the Lord in this time. You see? So early in this verse, it tells you that Moses didn't give you that bread from heaven. And the Lord is the bread that the Lord said, I am the bread. That's why the Last Supper, they were breaking the bread, and the bread was the body of Yahushua. It says, and all the Father giveth me shall come to me, and him that cometh to me I will no longer no wise cast out. For I came from heaven not to do mine own will, but the will of him that sent me. So the will of the Lord was to establish a new covenant, to establish the order of Melchizedek, to establish the new covenant. The symbol of the new covenant is what? Bread and wine. But our people rejected that in the first century. That's why a lot of men got put to death, because a lot of people, they were holding to Moses in the first century, and the majority of our people, they're holding to Moses now. Therefore, that's why guys are carnal. And their doctrine is of the world and destruction, because they have what? No mercy. They have hate in them. That's why the Lord told them that you're of your father the devil, and they told the Lord that they were Moses' disciples. After the Lord had just healed that blind man, these guys say, hey, they was asking the blind man, how did he heal you? And the healing comes through your belief. So that's why, too, a lot of guys are not being healed, because they don't really even believe in this. They're believing the commandments and doctrines of men over having faith in the Lord in these times is heavy, bro. Because faith is where the spiritual power lies. When you go into that word quick enough, I think I read it yesterday, your faith, that's where the spiritual power comes in, with your faith believing. Once you show the Lord that you really believe, then the Lord can open you up to things. Now, if you don't believe, you won't be shown nothing, and you'll be in a carnal state. Teaching is for the world. It says, all my Father giveth me shall come to me, and him that cometh to me I will no longer cast out. See, these words are more important than anything. The Lord's words, the letters in red, they are more important than anything you could read. So we're dealing with guys that have not been redeemed in this time. They're in their sins. They're in the flesh. Guys, doctrine is of the flesh. Our doctrine over here is not of the flesh. It is of a higher order. It's of the order of Melchizedek. It's of the spirit. And you have to be of the spirit to actually understand this. So that's why the Lord made this covenant beautiful, because if you don't have the understanding of the Lord, and you're not in the covenant believing on the Lord, then you don't have the doctrine of life. You don't have the bread of life in you. That's why the Lord said, I and you and me. John 6:39, this is the Father's will which have sent me, that of all which have given me shall I lose nothing, but shall raise it up again at the last day. But shall raise it up again at the last day. That's what's happening. Certain men are being raised up in this last day. So when you go into that word resurrection, it goes into certain men being resurrected, certain ones being raised up in this time. That's why he told Mary, he said, hey, look, I am the resurrection. So certain men are being raised up in this last day. It says, and the Jews, verse 41, the Jews murmur at him because he said, I am the bread of life which cometh down from heaven. You see that? And they said, is not this Joseph? Is not this the anointed, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How is it that he saith, I come down from heaven? You see that? So the Lord was telling them that he is the bread of life. So when you go back to Melchizedek, they were eating the bread and wine. Genesis 14:7. The king of Sodom went out to meet him after his return from the slaughter of Cardellona of the kings that were with him in the valley of Sava, which is the king's Dale, and Melchizedek, king of Salem was going back to Jerusalem. So the king of Salem brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High Power. And he blessed him and said, "Blessed be Abraham of the Most High Power, God, possessor of heaven and earth." It says, "And be blessed the Most High Power, which have delivered thine enemies into thy hand, and gave him tithes of all." And the king of Solomon said to Abram, "Give me the persons, and take the goods thyself." And Abram said to the king of Solomon, "I have lifted up my hand unto the Lord, and the Most High Power is the possessor of heaven and earth. I will not take from a thread even to a shoe latchet." So the Lord, and he told that guy of Sodom, he ain't gonna take nothing from his ass. And so that's showing you too that Abraham had integrity. You see what I'm saying? Because the king of Solomon wanted to he wanted to give Abraham something for for what he did. But Abraham said he ain't gonna take part in that wickedness. So a lot of guys are taking part of the wickedness of Babylon. Guys are preaching the downfall of Babylon, but they're holding you to the old covenant. You see what I'm saying? And they are not in the spirit. They don't have the gospel. So Melchizedek brought forth bread and wine, and he was the priest of the Most High Power, and blessed him and said, "Be blessed, Abraham, Most High Power, the possessor of heaven and earth." So Melchizedek blessed Abraham. This is what you got to understand. You have to understand that the symbology in the bread and the wine, the body of Yahushua, even what's this, Matthew 27, I think it is right here. Matthew 26 and 26. It says, as they were eating, the anointed took bread and blessed it and brake it and gave it to the disciples and said, "Take it, eat. This is my body." And he took the cup and gave thanks and gave it to them, saying, "Drink ye all of it. This is my blood of the New Testament. It is shed for many for the remission of sins." So the new covenant is started back in the first century, and we're going to keep hammering to this because you got to understand it already started. What has happened, what's going on right now, Satan has dominion of, he's the prince of the world right now, but his reign is almost up. So as the elect wakes up and understand who they are, this diminishes Satan's power. So Satan was cast out, and his time being the prince of the air is almost up. So that's why the guys are being tormented, because they're of their father, the devil. You see, because if you're not under the new covenant, or if you're not teaching it, you're actually you're of your father, the devil. So you got to understand that Yahushua is a king and a priest, just like the order of Melchizedek. And the symbology of the bread and wine is the symbology going back to Melchizedek before the law. So what they're saying is certain of us in this time are righteous without the law. That's what they're saying. Certain of us in this time, we were born predestined, like Romans 8, and we're coming back to who we are. So you got to understand that. What's this? 1 Peter's 2. A chosen priesthood. That's why the Yahushua is a stumbling stone and a rock of offense. A lot of guys are offended because guys don't have no mercy and they don't have no love, and then they don't have no they don't have the fruits of the spirit, so they don't understand hell. They don't understand the breakdown of the Gentiles. They don't understand that we're not under the old order Aaron anymore. That was done with in the first century. And Satan has had dominion over this world. But his dominion is coming to a close. That's why them demons say you come to trouble us before our time. Because now the time is up now. Coming up because we're receiving back who we are. And the Lord is gathering who is his. 1 Peter 2:8. 1 Peter's 2:7, it says, unto you therefore which believe is he precious, but unto them that be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is the head of the corner. So to a lot of guys that are disobedient, understanding Yahushua ain't precious to them. What they think is precious is teaching the world. It's crazy. And a stone of stumbling, a rock of offense, like a lot of guys are offended at the gospel. Even to them that stumble at the word, being disobedient, whereunto also they were appointed. So guys were appointed to deny the Lord, to their own destruction. That's why you got to keep coming out of the world, keep coming out of camps. And if you are of God, if you are of the Lord, it says, but ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into this marvelous light, which in past times were not a people, but are now the people of power. So all of our people are not people of power, and which had not obtained mercy, but now we have obtained mercy. So if you have mercy in you, you're going to be able to show other men mercy. And you're not showing men mercy teaching them false doctrine. So this whole new covenant is built off of forgiveness and mercy and love. So if you don't have that in you, you're not part of the Melchizedek order. By default, you're of the old order Aaron. And that's what your spirit links up with. But let me get out of here. I'll speak with you brothers a little bit later. I just wanted to bring that out. Yahushua is the bread and the wine of the new covenant, going back to the times before the old law, the times of Melchizedek, which Melchizedek blessed Abraham. So this priesthood is way more blessed, and it only is exclusive to those ones that were actually redeemed of God and that are of God. And with that, hey, shalom. Repent to the new covenant. Hey, shalom.